In this Elden Ring Nightreign video, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Everdark Sovereign Libra Boss fight. I just finished this today. I spent quite a bit of time yesterday on it. This fight probably took me, I don't know, 12, 15 attempts or something like that. We had a lot of very close attempts in there. There were ones where we had it down to 10%, 5%, but this is by far the hardest boss fight that exists currently. I've heard that it's a lot easier solo, but I was playing multiplayer and it's extremely difficult. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk a little bit about what worked for us, and we'll talk a little bit about the new relic that you get. So first of all, the relic you get increases your attack power after taking damage by 15%, which is pretty good for like a melee build like Wilder or maybe Raider. The gesture cross legs builds up madness, and madness continually recovers HP is garbage. This is a pretty garbage relic in general. I honestly don't feel like From Software put a lot of effort into the relics that they do for these events. Most of them are bad. There have been a couple decent ones. But I feel like, particularly with how difficult some of these bosses have been compared to the normal bosses, they should give you relics to reflect that, and they really don't. So I really hope moving forward that they can take that sort of feedback to heart and really improve the relics that we see, because they just seem like they're really not even trying to make them good. Okay, so on to the Libra Creature of Night boss fight. This thing was absolutely insane. The normal version of this boss fight is not easy as well. It took Fextier and I a number of attempts to finally get it down. I don't even know how you would do this with a random group, frankly. But there are a couple of things about this fight that made it a bit easier after trial and error. First of all, holy damage, fire damage are great damage types against this boss. So if you can find holy weapons in your travels, that's good. I'm actually using a Sacred Rotten Battle Axe here, and this is not something I would normally use on Wilder, but the game gave it to me, and Rot is really, really good on this boss. There is a lot of time during this boss fight that you simply cannot attack the boss, particularly if you're a melee character. So having that damage ticking over time on him is very, very strong. And then, of course, the increased damage from Holy. I have Sacred Blade on it, so I can buff it for even more Holy damage. That worked out really, really well for me in this fight. The next thing that worked really well is also having Poison, our Iron Eye being played by Tyr. He's got Poison on his bow, and he also has a Holy Bow. So he's alternating between putting Poison onto the boss and then attacking with Holy damage. So that worked really well. You can start with Poison on your bow as an Iron Eye, so that's not so hard to do. And then if you can find one Rotten Weapon, you can combine those for very good effect. Because even when you're playing Iron Eye as a ranged character, there are simply times you cannot focus on the boss. You have to dodge, you have to move out of the way. He's across the map and you're separated by barriers, etc. So it can be very difficult, and having that Poison and Scarlet Rot ticking at the same time is good, plus the added damage from Holy. Now, we tried a few different setups against this guy, and what we found worked was having a Wilder, an Iron Eye, and a Recluse. I'm sure there are other setups that work well as well. We tried a lot of Raider and Iron Eye and Recluse, and a lot of Raider and Wilder and Recluse as well, and those all were, we had pretty close attempts on those, so those were pretty good. But I will say this is a very difficult fight to play as a melee character, predominantly because this boss throws a lot of AoEs down, and a lot of his AoEs like center on him. He'll like call this thing down that AoEs in 4 different directions that if you're right on top of will kill you, as you'll see at the end of this boss fight. It gets me right at the end. And he has a couple of other AoEs that summons around him, and then he drops AoEs under you. So if you spend all your stamina running in to finally get an attack after not being able to attack for 4 or 5 minutes, not that long, 30 seconds a minute, and then you don't have any stamina to run away when you see he's going to do an AoE, you can get really screwed. And that happened to me a number of times through our attempts, just because it was either try to do some damage or hang back and not take any damage. And in this fight, it's not so hard to stay alive once you learn the mechanics, but it's hard to deal damage and stay alive. Thus, the status effects become very, very versatile. So what we did was we had Iron Eye and Wilder basically stick to the boss for the most part. There are times where we tried to help clean up some ads, but generally speaking, when you're playing Iron Eye, if you shoot at an NPC enemy, they'll dodge a lot of the time, so it's not generally worth it. You can use the grapple on Wilder. They don't seem to be able to dodge that, which is really nice, but doesn't deal a ton of damage. It doesn't pull them to you. It doesn't pull you to them. But it's still very good for getting some little bit of damage to finish something off or maybe interrupt it. And so we stayed on the boss. We tried to keep Poison and Scarlet Rot on the boss as much as possible, while Fex, playing Recluse, basically tried to take care of the ads and thin them out. She's using Stars of Ruin that homes onto them. They couldn't seem to get out of the way of it very easy. She's also using like Dark Moon or Twin Moon spell. That thing was absolutely wrecking the NPCs. So that worked out really well for us. Her just thinning them out and us thinning them out when needed, but mostly staying on the boss to make sure we were taking it down. Additionally, another thing about this boss, if you stagger it, if you do enough damage to stance break it, it'll go berserk. And during that period, it won't summon any more adds. It's a lot harder to dodge a lot of its attacks, just assuming you can hit all over the screen when that happens. And sometimes you're not really prepared for it, because he doesn't stay down very long when you stance break him. He gets up and starts going hand immediately. But that is a really good time for your ranged characters to be able to range into them and help you with damage, particularly like Vex, who's normally thinning out adds, because she can finish off what's left of the adds during this very long time and then help you get onto them. Another thing that worked really well for us towards the end of this fight is when we started getting it low and we started getting overwhelmed by adds, is if you run far away, you can get 2-on-1s on the adds and kill them really quickly, and then kind of get things more under control. The boss might teleport to you and you're in a better situation away from all his AoE and things like that. So that can work really well too. Besides this though, I think it's very obvious that this boss fight's going to be nerfed. I would not be shocked if we saw a patch in the next couple of days, maybe before the weekend even, just to reduce the difficulty of this boss. I think probably what I would suggest doing if they're going to nerf it is probably just reduce the health of the boss by 10-15%, something like that. I think that's probably online. That would still keep this a very, very difficult fight, which you want it to be. But it would take like your win rate from like 5 to 10% up to like 30%, something like that, which is pretty good, I think. It's a good spot. So I don't know what you guys make of it. Have you guys been having trouble on this boss? If you have other tips for other players, things I don't know about it, let me know in the comments below.